car crash flipped my life, making me the ex-husband of a high-powered CEO in a typical CEO novel. Thinking about the tragic end of the original husband, I didn't hesitate to sign the divorce papers. The CEO's face immediately turned sour. "Noah, are you sure about this?" My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly grabbed my wallet. "You must be joking. There's no way I'm returning a single penny of that hefty breakup fee." After 3 days lying in a hospital bed, I finally came to terms with the fact that I'd transmigrated. I, Noah, just an average college student, had landed myself in the role of the villainous ex-husband in a cliched CEO story. I was the CEO's ex-husband, living off my family's wealth and power, doing whatever I wanted. At the university's opening ceremony, I fell head over heels for the heroine, Sophie, at first sight. From then on, I chased her relentlessly, using every trick to force her into marriage. Sophie, the perfect heroine of a campus novel, was beautiful, talented, and came from a struggling family. Her father was deaf and mute, and her mother had kidney failure. To raise money for her mother's medical bills, she reluctantly married me. In our 5 years of marriage, Sophie transformed from an unknown office worker into a rising business star. Our relationship only deteriorated. Sophie slowly broke free from my control, but I didn't notice, acting more recklessly until I pushed her first love down the stairs, breaking his leg. That was the final straw. Sophie couldn't handle it anymore and filed for divorce. Around that time, I got into the car accident. Sophie didn't visit me until the 3rd day and immediately threw the divorce papers at me. "Noah, haven't you had enough?" Her voice was icy, eyes filled with impatience and disgust. Still, when I saw her face, my heart skipped a beat. No wonder the original Noah was so obsessed. This face was genuinely stunning. Then I looked at the divorce papers and saw how much I stood to gain. My heart almost stopped. Holy crap, I'm rich. The original Noah's family was loaded, but he was a spoiled brat with a younger brother who was better at everything. Inheriting the family business was never in the cards for him. Meanwhile, Sophie had skyrocketed in just a few years, and her assets were substantial. Once we divorced, the breakup fee would be astronomical. All my good deeds had paid off, and becoming filthy rich like this was just what I deserved. After calculating my gains, I kept my excitement in check, staying silent for a while, afraid that if I smiled, Sophie would sense something was off. Then I took a deep breath. All right, I agreed to the divorce. Sophie was shocked. She probably didn't expect me to agree so easily, but chances like this don't come twice. Before she could react, I quickly signed the divorce papers. Sophie seemed to sense something was wrong and frowned. "You." I turned my head and, in a dead tone, said, "I've thought it through, Sophie. Let's let each other go." There was a long silence behind me. I was about to curl back under the covers and count my money again when I noticed Sophie still hadn't moved. Quietly staring at the divorce papers, puzzled, I asked, "Aren't you leaving?" Sophie looked up. I gently hinted, "By the way, hasn't that guy Lee fully recovered yet? Shouldn't you go visit him more?" Sophie's face suddenly went cold. I felt uneasy. Maybe she regretted giving me so much money. But I'd already signed my name, and there was no way she could back out now. Besides, considering how generous I was being, it was only fair that she paid me back. Sophie had an unforgettable first love in college, Justin. Unlike the arrogant rich kid I was, Justin was gentle, mature, and hardworking. He came from a single-parent family with financial struggles, but excelled in everything. In some ways, he and Sophie were a perfect match. She was his true soulmate. Without me, they would have naturally ended up together, building a happy life after graduating. But I ruined it all. The original Noah was insanely jealous of Justin, always picking fights and eventually resorting to violence. Sophie completely despised Noah and cut ties with him. It's not hard to see how terrible a villain like me would end up after crossing both the male and female leads. So the smart move was to grab the money and run. Sophie eventually stormed out, slamming the door. I patted my chest and muttered, Still got quite the temper, but then thought about the money I'd be getting, and my mood lifted again. This kind of windfall doesn't happen to everyone. Just as I was soaking in my good fortune, my phone buzzed with a message from Jessica. Heard Sophie finally bothered to visit you today. The tone was mocking. Jessica was Noah's childhood friend, a spoiled rich girl who loved partying and couldn't stand Sophie. Sophie didn't think much of her either. They were always at odds, especially after I married Sophie and our families interacted more. Jessica's father often praised Sophie in front of her, which only made Jessica hate her more. She called me a lovesick fool, always telling me to forget Sophie and come pick vegetables at her family's farm. This time, it was clear she was just here to laugh at my misery. But did I care? Of course not. I was too busy getting rich to worry about anything else. Yep, I replied, snapping a photo of the divorce papers and sending it to her. Starting today, your boy's single. Dinner's on you, Jessica. She immediately called, her first words, "Are you out of your mind?" Ugh, such a rude way to talk. I'll head to the Civil Affairs Bureau once I'm discharged. Thankfully, the car accident wasn't too bad. I only had a mild concussion. You got any celebration planned? Jessica was quiet for a moment, then laughed. All right then, what's the plan? Kuda Xiao, what kind of celebration are you looking for? Well, I heard you recently opened a new bar. A week later, I walked out of the hospital in an expensive suit, looking sharp and ready to go. Jessica folded her arms and snickered. Dressed up like this just to leave the hospital. You've lost it, haven't you? I clicked my tongue. What do you know? Today's a big day. Jessica couldn't argue and turned to leave, only to bump into Sophie. Sophie's eyes lingered on her for a moment, her gaze icy. You're here. I walked up to Sophie with a grin. Where's the car? Sophie's expression softened slightly. In the parking lot. Let's go, Jessica. Annoyed, she shot me a glance and squinted. Noah, you're not riding with me. I waved her off. I've got to go to the Civil Affairs Bureau with Sophie to finalize the divorce. So it's easier to take her car. As I spoke, I urged Sophie, who had frozen in place. What are you standing there for? Let's go. Jessica burst out laughing. Of course, can't delay something this important. Sophie's lips curled into a sneer. Noah, you're in such a hurry to cut ties with me. Weren't you the one who wanted this divorce? Why the sarcastic tone all of a sudden? I answered honestly, I've got other plans tonight. I'm just trying to get this settled quickly so I don't waste your time. Sophie was always busy, rarely coming home. I knew it was because she didn't want to see me. And honestly, I had no interest in staying tangled up with her either. Going our separate ways and living our own lives sounded perfect. Sophie's face was cold as she turned around. The Civil Affairs Bureau wasn't crowded, so Sophie and I were called up quickly. Just as we were about to go in, Sophie's phone rang. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw it was Justin. Sophie stepped aside to take the call, and I could faintly hear her soft, gentle voice. Yeah, I'm still out, handling something. She never spoke to me like that. This marriage had been forced from the start. 5 years of constant conflict, barely managing to sit down for a meal together, let alone speak tenderly. The staff member called out again. Are you two coming in or not? I shook my head, feeling a bit sorry for the original Noah. In Sophie's heart, he never had any place. Sophie, I called out to her, can we take care of my business first? Sophie always prioritized Justin. No matter how much I argued or fought, it never changed her. The original Noah was foolish, thinking he could ever win against Justin. It was just asking for heartbreak. Sophie, if she took care of this now, she'd finally be free to be with her unforgettable first love. Sophie seemed momentarily stunned, then said into the phone, Let Dr. Zhang check on you first. I'll be there soon. 20 minutes later, I held the freshly printed divorce certificate in my hand, tears of joy welling up. It's mine. The massive breakup fee was mine. From today on, I was going to travel, drink, and enjoy life to the fullest. I turned to Sophie, brimming with sincerity. Sophie, thank you and goodbye. Thanks for the money and goodbye forever. As I walked out, I immediately spotted Jessica. She was leaning against a flashy red Ferrari, impossible to miss. I walked over happily. "You boys are rich. Time to spend some money." Behind me, Sophie's voice called out hesitantly, "Noah." I turned around quickly. "Anything else?" Sophie's lips pressed into a tight line, her emotions hard to read. If this were the original Noah, he'd be digging into her feelings, trying to figure out what was wrong. But I couldn't be bothered to keep up the act anymore. "No, then I'm leaving." I quickened my pace. As a disposable villain like me, staying far away from the main leads was key to happiness. As we drove off in Jessica's car, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Sophie stood there, surrounded by people coming and going, looking oddly lonely. Well, now that I'm out of her life, she can finally be free, right? Jessica gave me a sideways glance. "You feeling regret?" "What?" I grinned eagerly. "You saved a few of those lovely ladies at your bar for me, right?" Jessica was utterly speechless. "I've been worried about you for nothing. I actually thought you were deeply in love with her, but you're practically glowing with happiness now that you're divorced." "Wait, is it that obvious?" I flipped down the sun visor mirror and took a good look at myself. Noah was now 28, so I'd aged 10 years in a flash, but luckily this face was still handsome. Most importantly, I had money. I thought about it and offered an explanation. "She doesn't love me, so I'm done loving her too." During a red light, Jessica turned to look at me, staring so long it made my skin crawl. Finally, she spoke, her tone hard to decipher. "That car accident really changed you." Huh. My heart skipped a beat. After a moment of silence, I shrugged. Maybe after a near-death experience, people just start seeing things differently. Jessica blinked in surprise, then smiled. "Fair enough. All right, tonight's bill is on me." 2 hours later, Jessica regretted her words. Her face was dark. "Haven't you had enough?" She wasn't talking about the drinks, but the girls in the club. I raised my glass to her. "Come on, Jessica." I patted her on the shoulder and pointed at the circle of pretty girls around us. "Look at them. Sweet, beautiful, and every one of them better than my ex-wife. Honestly, with so many gorgeous women out there and money to spare, why did the original Noah hang himself on one tree?" Jessica sneered. "People get stuck in their heads too easily." "Huh?" A slim girl came over to pour me a drink, smiling sweetly. "Try this, brother." "Sure." I was about to take it when Jessica snatched it away. "No mixing drinks. You just got out of the hospital, and I'm not calling an ambulance for you later." She glanced at the girl, who immediately turned pale and back out her head in apology. "I'm sorry, brother. I didn't know." I waved it off generously. "It's fine, I'm in a good mood today." Then I shot a teasing look at Jessica. "Honestly, you're something else. Double standards much? You're always letting your boyfriends feed you drinks, but when it's my turn, I'm out of luck." Jessica let out a sharp laugh. "How is that the same? Why wouldn't it be? I'm a freshly minted rich guy. I can do whatever I want." Then Jessica suddenly asked, "By the way, does your family know about all this?" I froze. Crap, I'd forgotten about that. Before I could say anything, Jessica gave me a knowing look. "I knew it. You're too scared to tell them. It's not that I don't want to, it's that I don't dare." The original Noah didn't have the best relationship with his family. His parents were stubborn and old-fashioned, clearly favoring his younger brother, while Noah was rebellious. When he married Sophie, it caused a huge falling out between him and his family. Later, when Sophie started to succeed, their attitude did a 180. They repeatedly blamed Noah for causing conflicts with Sophie. So the original villain's life hadn't been great either. But whatever. The divorce papers are in my hand. What do I have to be afraid of? The days that followed were even better than I had imagined. I asked the butler to pack up all of Sophie's belongings and send them off. This villa had originally been a wedding gift from Noah's parents, but Sophie had never liked staying here. Maybe every corner reminded her of the humiliation Noah had put her through. At first, she mostly stayed at the office. When her career took off, she bought an apartment near work. The original Noah had visited once, only to awkwardly run into Justin there. Awkward, to say the least. Even though Justin explained he was only there because it had started raining and he needed shelter, Noah's temper couldn't handle it without getting angry. They had a huge fight, followed by a month-long Cold War. In the end, Noah couldn't take it anymore and softened up. After all, Sophie was his whole world. Poor guy. But now, I had this enormous, luxurious 3-story villa all to myself. Sophie hadn't left much behind, but after cleaning up, the place still felt a little empty. So I headed out for some shopping therapy. I began commanding in my favorite store. This one, that one, and not this one, wrap up the rest. Yes, Mr. Coop. The store manager's face practically split with joy. She was thrilled, and so was I, with a few staff trailing behind to carry my purchases. I was just about to head out when I ran into Sophie. She froze when she saw me. I had already noticed Justin standing behind her. Looks like his leg was healing nicely. He was even out shopping now. Sophie's lips moved slightly, and she actually spoke first. It's his mother's birthday soon, so I'm helping him pick out a gift. I blinked. Oh, why are you telling me this? I don't care. Out of courtesy, I nodded politely. But before I could walk away, Justin spoke up, looking somewhat apologetic. Mr. Coop, I'm sorry, my leg's still not great, so I had Ollie help me get here. It looks like you've bought a lot. Need some help carrying it? Ollie could give you a hand. I'll be fine on my own. Ah, what a smooth talker. He subtly reminded everyone that I was the one who had pushed him, implied I shouldn't be jealous, and generously offered Sophie to help me. I smiled and said, "No need. My car is just downstairs. Besides, it wouldn't be right to trouble Miss Sue with personal matters." Justin blinked. Wouldn't be right to trouble Miss Sue with personal matters. What? I turned to Sophie, surprised. Miss Sue, you didn't tell Mr. Lee we're already divorced. Silence. Justin stared at Sophie, shocked. Sophie's delicate face tightened. I don't like broadcasting my private affairs. Was that a veiled jab at me? Just because I threw a few divorce parties? Why so petty? Justin, clearly not expecting such a bombshell, opened and closed his mouth a few times. Ollie, you and Mr. Koo, why didn't you tell me? Hearing his voice seemed to remind Sophie that he was still there. Her red lips moved, and after a brief pause, she explained quietly, I've been busy lately. She used to say that line all the time to brush Noah off. Now the tables had turned, and Justin was on the receiving end. But the male lead is different from the villain. For Justin, this line was actually great news. His gaze flicked between Sophie and me, and he awkwardly offered, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't mean to bring it up, Mr. Koo. I hope you don't mind. Of course I didn't mind. She's just a woman I no longer have anything to do with. Well, you two carry on. My personal shopper is handling my stuff, and these bags are heavy. I'll be on my way. Just as I took a step, Sophie suddenly called out, Wait. I turned around. Miss Sue, is there something else? Sophie's brow furrowed slightly, as if she wasn't used to my new attitude toward her. My mom said you haven't visited in a while. Sophie's voice lowered, reluctant to bring it up, but had no choice. If you have time, you should go see her. She was talking about her mother, the one suffering from kidney failure. Unlike Sophie, her mother had always liked Noah. Sophie had never told her mother that she was forced to marry Noah. In the old woman's eyes, Noah, the wealthy young master who didn't mind the Sue family's poor background and was devoted to Sophie, was the ideal son-in-law. When they first got married, Noah worked hard to gain her mother's favor, visiting regularly and taking care of her to win points with Sophie. He knew this was his last bargaining chip. Sophie was filial, and even if she wanted to, she wouldn't easily break up with him because of her mother. But when Noah attacked Justin, he crossed a line, and Sophie cut him off, leaving him with no cards left to play. I thought about it and agreed. All right, I'll visit tomorrow. Sophie visibly relaxed and said, I'll come pick you up in the morning. I smiled and waved my car keys. No need, I've got my own car and 2 good legs. I'll drive myself. No need to trouble Miss Sue. The next morning, I set off for the nursing home. It was a high-end facility in the suburbs with excellent services and amenities. Of course, it was also incredibly expensive. Mr. Koo, you're here. The caregiver greeted me politely. She had been hired by Sophie, and knowing about the strained relationship between us, treated me with a certain coldness. Mrs. Sue was lying in bed. Years of dialysis had left her frail and thin, but she had improved a lot since staying at the nursing home. Sandra's eyes lingered on the food container in my hand for a moment before she curled her lips, showing a hint of disdain. Even a caregiver looked down on me for trying to be considerate because she knew that no matter what I did, it would only earn Sophie's disdain. Noah. Mrs. Sue smiled warmly when she saw me. You've been busy lately, haven't you? It's been a while since you visited. I sighed inwardly. Noah had only ever used her, but she genuinely cared about him. The old lady hadn't done anything wrong. Yes, I've been a bit busy. I brought you some chicken soup. Please try it later. But Mrs. Sue grasped my hand, looking at me carefully for a moment before asking cautiously, Has Allie upset you again? I shook my head, but she didn't believe me. She sighed. Allie's always been stubborn and keeps things bottled up inside. If she made you unhappy, just tell me and I'll talk to her. I felt even guiltier. I had intended to tell her about the divorce, but now the words were stuck in my throat. I couldn't bring myself to say it. I stayed to have lunch with Mrs. Sue, chatting with her for a while afterward. As I was about to leave, I hesitated for a long time before finally speaking up. I'll be busy for a while, so I might not be able to visit often. I figured I'd gradually reduce the frequency of my visits, then find the right time to break the news. It would be easier that way. There was no way to keep the divorce a secret forever. Even if I wanted to, Sophie definitely wouldn't agree to that. If I kept showing up, she'd probably think I was still trying to win her back. Mrs. Sue patted my hand and sighed softly. Noah, you're a good kid. What happened before, it wasn't Ali's fault. She never said anything to me, but I know she feels guilty. And she regrets it. She loved you so much. My heart skipped a beat. The baby. Right. That was the incident that completely destroyed Noah and Sophie's relationship. Yes, Noah and Sophie had a child before. Noah had used underhanded tactics to get her pregnant while she was drunk at a business dinner. In Noah's eyes, the baby was his most powerful weapon to keep Sophie by his side. When Sophie found out she was pregnant, she felt guilty toward her first love, Justin, but she couldn't abandon her own child either. In the end, she chose the baby. She had already had a difficult childhood and couldn't bear for her child to be born into a broken home. That was when her relationship with Noah was at its best. She obediently took the prenatal vitamins Noah bought for her and read all sorts of parenting guides. She really wanted to be a good mother. So, when she had the miscarriage, it completely shattered their relationship. It's a strange story, really. After Sophie got pregnant, Noah noticed how much softer her attitude toward him had become. He pushed his luck, insisting that she stay with him all the time. Whenever Sophie tried to avoid him, he would use the excuse of doing activities for the baby's development or bonding as parents, forcing Sophie to compromise. But after this happened enough times, Sophie started to get frustrated. One time, Sophie was about to go on a business trip, and Justin was among the people going with her. Noah absolutely refused to let her go, insisting that she stay home and rest for the baby's sake. Sophie felt that he was being paranoid and controlling, and they had a huge argument. Noah, can you just act normal for once? Not everyone is as twisted as you. She slammed the door and stormed out. Later that night, Noah got the news. Sophie had miscarried after getting too upset. As you can imagine, this incident completely broke their relationship. They fought endlessly. If Sophie only despised Noah before, now she downright hated him. She never set foot in their home again and had no further contact with him. That is, until Noah went after Justin and pushed him down the stairs. That was the final straw. The original Noah really was insane. When he wanted to hurt people, he didn't even spare himself. I stayed silent for a while before saying, "It's all in the past. The original Noah is gone now. Those things ended with him." When I left the nursing home, I was in a bit of a funk. I wasn't sure if it was because of Mrs. Sue or because of the original Noah. That mood hit its peak when I realized I had accidentally lost my car keys. In utter despair, I called Jessica. "Come pick me up." Quickly, Jessica sounded incredulous. "Am I your chauffeur? Do I have to drop everything and come running whenever you call?" "I'll pay you," I replied. Jessica. The nursing home was in a pretty remote area, so even getting a cab wasn't easy. Jessica eventually gave in. By the time I got home, it was dark. To make things worse, it was pouring rain. Looking at the torrential downpour outside, I graciously decided to let Jessica stay the night, giving her the guest room on the second floor. The next morning, the doorbell rang. Seriously, who's ringing the doorbell this early? Half asleep, I groggily stumbled over to answer the door. "Who? Why are you here?" Standing outside was none other than Sophie. She was just about to say something when footsteps came from the stairs, and Jessica's voice, clearly irritated from being woken up, called out, "Who is it?" Sophie's face instantly turned cold, and she spoke through gritted teeth, as if every word was forced out. "Looks like I'm interrupting." I rolled my eyes internally. "Oh, so now you realize you're interrupting. And why are you mad? This is my house. You're just the ex—" "Interrupting? And why are you mad? This is my house." "You're just the ex-wife, so why do you get to act like you've been wronged pulling this cheated on act? You've been cheating on me for so long, and I haven't even bothered to call you out on it." I turned to Jessica and said, "No big deal, go back to sleep." Jessica had her own princess syndrome, but she was only here because she got caught in the rain last night, so the least I could do was let her get a good night's sleep. Seeing Sophie seemed to fully wake Jessica up. She lazily smiled. "We've got a guest." "Huh, wouldn't it be rude if I just went back to bed? Noah, why don't you invite her in?" I saw Jessica. "I told you this woman goes crazy when she doesn't get enough sleep." I ignored her and turned back to Sophie, clearly not planning to let her inside. I had just finished clearing out all her stuff, and I wasn't about to mess up the house again. It would only mean more work for the cleaner later. "So early. A mess. Sue, is there something you need?" I asked. Sophie's face turned a shade darker, clearly irritated by Jessica's casual words. But she couldn't lash out. If this were before, she could have kicked Jessica out as the mistress of the house. But now, she wasn't even on Jessica's level. She couldn't even step foot inside. But Sophie, like all women of her kind, was good at keeping her cool. She took a deep breath, ignored Jessica, and pulled out a key from her pocket, handing it to me. "You left this at my mom's yesterday. She asked me to bring it to you." The implication was clear. She was only here because her mom made her come. "Oh, thanks." I took the key. "You really didn't have to trouble yourself. I have a spare." Sophie had nothing to say to that. After a few moments of silence, my patience ran out, and I politely hinted, "A mess. Sue, is there anything else?" If Sophie couldn't tell I was asking her to leave, then she'd wasted all her years climbing to her current position. She pressed her red lips together. "No." Slam! I shut the door in her face. Jessica was standing on the stairs watching me. I raised an eyebrow. "Not going back to sleep. Why are you staring at me?" Jessica narrowed her eyes, crossing her arms. "Nothing, really. I just think you seem a bit heartless toward your ex-wife." I rolled my eyes. "If you don't have anything to say, you don't have to say anything." Jessica tilted her head slightly. "Noah, don't tell me you haven't noticed her feelings." I shot back. "What feelings?" Jessica leaned against the railing, speaking lazily. "She wants to see you, doesn't she? Otherwise, she wouldn't have rushed over so early just to return a car key. Nor would her face have turned so sour when she saw me here." I tilted my head. "And so," Jessica tapped the railing with her fingers, her tone casual. "Don't you feel anything?" "Feel what?" Just because she turned around. "I'm supposed to chase after her. I found it kind of funny." "Oh, I do." Jessica's eyes flicked over to me, her back straightening a bit. I shrugged. I feel like I should have divorced her sooner. If I'd known what kind of person she was, I would have moved on a long time ago. She wasted so much of my time. Jessica seemed surprised by what I said. She stared at me for a moment, then suddenly turned her head and laughed. Well done, Noah. You've finally grown a backbone. Feeling encouraged, I couldn't resist complimenting her back. Oh, not at all. I'm still far behind you. Now, she was the real master, navigating countless relationships without ever getting attached. Jessica smirked. How many times do I have to tell you? I don't have anything to do with those men. I quickly agreed. Of course, of course. You're just playing the field until you find your true love. Isn't that how it always goes in the novels? The rich, spoiled heiress eventually meets her destined love, and all her old emotional debts get repaid tenfold. Jessica gave me a deadpan look before muttering, "There's no talking sense with an idiot like you." And then she went back to sleep. I slept until the afternoon, waking up because I was starving. When I checked my phone, I saw a bunch of missed calls and messages, all from the original Noah's parents. After scrolling for a bit, I figured out why they were suddenly trying to contact me. They had found out about the divorce. You divorced Sophie. What on earth were you thinking? How many times have we told you? Sophie's company is doing great, and we were in the middle of negotiating a partnership with them. What are we supposed to do now? How old are you? How can you be this irresponsible? You divorced her just like that. Didn't you consider how this affects anyone else? You're so selfish. I don't have a son like you. The messages went on, but they were all the same. I skimmed through them, then got up to find something to eat. Man, that aroma is killer. I was totally stunned when I saw the table loaded with all sorts of delicious food. And there was Jessica, just chilling and munching away on her own. Jessica, do you even have a conscience scarfing all this down solo? She lazily looked up. What, should I starve for you? Her reasoning was so on point, I couldn't even argue. I plopped down and grabbed some chopsticks, diving straight into my favorite, shredded pork with garlic sauce. Jessica really knew her stuff when it came to food. Even her takeout was better than what most folks get. Oh, and by the way, your parents called me too, Jessica mentioned between bites. I didn't know. They said they'd been trying to reach you, but you weren't answering. I grabbed a braised rib. Yeah, I know. Jessica's chopsticks froze for a sec, and she glanced at my phone. Should I give you some space? I brushed it off. No worries. They'll say what they want. But it's all settled now. There's nothing they can do. Just as I finished talking, the phone rang again. I picked it up. Before I could even say hey, a harsh voice started yelling, Noah, you need to find Sophie right now. Tell her you messed up, that you were just being impulsive. Beg her to take you back and remarry. Listening to that sharp voice, I had to pull the phone away for a moment. Remarry, seriously? I'm well aware that getting yelled at beats being killed by Sophie. Noah, are you even listening to me? I finally replied. I'm listening, but this isn't gonna fly. I can't do it. The voice on the other end got even more pissed. Noah, is this how you talk to your parents? I responded calmly. I'm listening, but this isn't gonna work. I can't do it. Her anger just escalated. Noah, is this how you talk to your parents? I kept it cool. Didn't you say before that I'm not your son? Did you forget? Suddenly, there was silence. It seemed like she was about to start yelling again, but I couldn't care less. Anyway, I've made my choice, and I'm busy right now. We can talk another time. With that, I hung up and blocked the number. Jessica, who saw the whole thing, was left speechless. She set her chopsticks down and gave me a once-over, clearly impressed. Well, Noah, not only did you ditch your ex-wife, but now you're also standing up to your parents, too. I was still chewing on some meat, so I mumbled back, where there's oppression, there's resistance. Jessica let out a sarcastic laugh, leaning forward a bit and resting her chin on her hand, her red lips curling into a smirk. So, does that mean I'm next? I gave her a thumbs up, praising her self-awareness. Her reaction didn't surprise me. She grew up with the original Noah, so she knew exactly the kind of person he used to be. From her point of view, everything I did probably summed up to one thing. I've lost my mind. But honestly, Anyone would go crazy with all this drama. I'm just a supporting villain without the protagonist's plot armor. The best move is to bail while I still can. Oh, and by the way, help me find a new place. I mentioned this villa's nice, but I can't stand being bothered all the time. It wasn't just Sophie. Noah's entire family was a pain too. Now that I had totally burned that bridge, who knew when they'd show up to stir things up? And I had zero interest in dealing with that. Jessica got it, leave it to me. Jessica was a top-tier rich kid. Sure, she spent most of her time eating, drinking, and partying. But when you really needed her, she got things done. The next day, she called me saying she'd found a villa on the west side of the city. The previous owner moved abroad and was desperate to sell. The place was just renovated and never lived in. You're getting a steal. I was really impressed with her efficiency. That same day, I dragged Jessica along to sign the contract and transferred the ownership as fast as possible. Then I immediately listed my current place for sale. I called a moving company. Soon enough, a crew of movers was racing up and down the stairs, packing everything up. I couldn't help but shake my head. I hadn't realized how much stuff the original Noah had until now. This was gonna cost extra, wasn't it? "Mr. Koo, what's in this box?" "It's pretty heavy," one of the movers asked. Hauling a large cardboard box down from the third floor, it was sealed tight so I couldn't see inside. Just as I was about to check it out, I got a call. "Hello? Is this Mr. Koo? This is the Third People's Hospital. Your wife fainted on the street and was brought here. Can you come to the hospital ASAP?" I froze. Sophie fainted and she's in the hospital. "You must be mistaken. I'm not her husband," I explained. The voice on the other end sounded surprised. But the contact info on her phone. Oh, right, I suddenly remembered. Back when Sophie was pregnant, Noah had insisted on changing his name in her phone to Dear Noah, husband. Sophie had gone along with it at the time. I guess she'd forgotten to change it back after the divorce. "How is she doing?" I asked. "She likely fainted due to low blood sugar. There's no immediate danger, but her overall condition isn't great. It's better if you—" "I see, but I'm a bit tied up right now. Why don't you call her current boyfriend? His name is Justin. You should find his number in her contacts. If anything comes up, just reach out to him." I hung up and looked around. The living room was now packed with even more boxes. "How long is this going to take?" "Just move everything out for now. I'll sort it later when I have time." Luckily, the new house was big enough. I asked the housekeeper to organize things. Then I spent the rest of the day playing some games and checking out a new trendy barbecue spot. The food was awesome and the vibe was lit, so I couldn't help but take a bunch of photos and post them on social media. "Check in. Another day of bulking up," I captioned, along with a few selfies. My friends bombarded me with likes, and even Jessica, who rarely commented online, chimed in. "This place is pretty good," I replied. "You've been here?" Jessica: "Of course, I own it." Wow, she really knows how to play her cards. What I didn't expect was Justin leaving a comment too. His tone was polite, but dripping with condescension and accusation. "Noah, even though you and Ollie are divorced, she's in the hospital right now. Don't you think you should at least visit her?" I was like, what's his deal? As soon as Justin's comment dropped, my social feed blew up. Only a few people knew about my divorce with Sophie, and I hadn't even figured out how to break the news yet. But now he'd gone and put himself on the moral high ground. "Well, if that's how he wants to play it," I replied, acting all high and mighty, "a good ex should act like they're dead. I just didn't want any misunderstandings. But if you don't mind, I'll go visit. After all, we were classmates, and it's only right to check in on her." What do you think? My social feed went wild. People were buzzing with excitement. Not long after, Justin quietly deleted his comment. "Oh, so deleting it makes everything go away?" Huh. I quickly followed up with another public post. Calling all social media experts, what's the best gift to bring when visiting your ex-wife and her current boyfriend in the hospital? This is super important. An hour later, I arrived at the hospital carrying a bag of fruit. Just as I approached the room, I heard Justin's voice, full of concern. "Ollie, don't be mad. I know I was wrong this time, but I was only thinking about you." There was no response from Sophie. Justin, sounding both frustrated and wronged, continued, "You passed out, and the hospital even called him, but he didn't bother to come see you. What if something had happened to you today?" He made it sound like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. Finally, Sophie's tired voice came through. "I'm a little tired. Justin, I'd like to be alone for a while." After a brief pause, I heard the sound of a chair moving. Then Justin showed up at the door. When he saw me, he froze, staring in shock, sensing something was off. Sophie turned to look too, her face pale, devoid of the usual commanding presence she had as a powerful CEO, lying in the hospital bed with a drip in her arm. She looked unexpectedly fragile. When she saw me, her dull eyes lit up for a moment, filled with what seemed like a mix of tension and uncertainty. "Noah, what are you doing here?" I stepped past Justin and walked into the room. Well, I didn't want people talking behind my back, saying that I didn't care if my ex-wife lived or died right after the divorce. After all, we were college classmates. No need to make things so awkward. Right. Sophie's face went pale, her lips tightening into a thin line. She must have seen the little exchange between me and Justin on social media. Knowing how proud she was, she couldn't stand being publicly teased like that. It must have felt humiliating. Her hatred for me probably just grew another notch. The thought of it annoyed me. "All right, now that I've shown up, if there's nothing else, I'll be on my way." Sophie's mouth twitched slightly. "Noah, do you really have to act like this?" I raised an eyebrow, genuinely curious. "Like what? You didn't visit me until 3 days after my car accident. Compared to that, I think I'm being pretty reasonable, don't you? If we're talking about being ruthless, who can top the female lead?" Sophie's face turned ashen. Her mouth opened as if to say something, but my phone rang, interrupting her. "It was the housekeeper from my villa, Mr. Koo. Most of your belongings have been organized, but there's one box we haven't touched yet. It's full of ceramic items. What would you like us to do with them?" I paused. "Ceramic items?" "Yes, and it looks like you made them yourself?" I paused. "Ceramic items?" "Yes, and it looks like you made them yourself. So I thought I'd check with you first." From the corner of my eye, I caught Sophie's startled expression, and a memory flashed through my mind. "Oh, right. Those ceramics were indeed made by the original Noah." Back in college, Sophie worked part-time at a DIY pottery shop, and Noah would often go there to see her, spending entire afternoons there. He had no talent for it, and no patience either. His only focus was Sophie. As a result, every time he'd leave covered in clay, taking home some hideously ugly finished product. But he never got tired of it and didn't seem to care how ridiculous he looked. Eventually, Sophie couldn't take it anymore and told him he was doing it wrong. Noah immediately seized the opportunity to push further. "Then why don't you teach me yourself?" Of course, Sophie refused, but Noah was a VIP customer at the shop and she couldn't afford to offend him. It wasn't until Sophie quit that Noah finally stopped going. That box of art pieces had been accumulated during that time. "They're not important." "Just throw them out," I said indifferently. "Wait." Sophie suddenly spoke up. "You moved." I had to admit, this woman could be sharp when she wanted to be. I nodded. "Yep," Sophie frowned. "Where to? Why so sudden?" I couldn't help but laugh. A mess. "Sue, how many times do I have to remind you? We're divorced. What I do and where I live have nothing to do with you anymore." Sophie's expression faltered, like she had just heard something she couldn't accept. Her eyes reddened slightly. After a long moment, she finally relented. Her voice low. "If you don't want the ceramics, I can send someone to pick them up." I gave her a curious look. Those are my things. If I want to keep them, I will. If I want to throw them away, I'll throw them away. For some reason, that sentence seemed to strike a nerve. The last bit of light in Sophie's eyes flickered out. It was like watching a weak flame in the wind finally blow out. Justin, clearly worried, quickly stepped forward. "Ollie, are you okay?" Sophie turned her head slightly, avoiding his hand. Justin froze, visibly embarrassed, but I had no interest in their drama. So I turned to leave. Just as I stepped outside, a doctor called out to me. Huh? I looked up to see a woman in her 40s. A doctor. Studying me. Why are you here? Are you feeling unwell? I was confused for a moment, then glanced at her name badge. It read, Obstetrics Department Chief. An unsettling thought crossed my mind. The only thing Noah had ever been involved with that could connect him to this doctor was the baby from before. Thanks for your concern, but I'm fine. I'm just here visiting a friend, I replied vaguely. The doctor seemed to relax. That's good, but you and your wife are at the right age now. Next time you have a child, you shouldn't give it up. I was stunned. Those two sentences carried a massive amount of information. A child. A child. Didn't Sophie have a miscarriage? What is the doctor talking about? Wait. That night when Noah arrived at the hospital, Sophie had already been wheeled out of surgery, with Justin sitting by her bedside. Ollie, what are you doing? Justin's alarmed voice jolted me from my thoughts. I turned around to see Sophie yanking out her IV and pushing Justin aside as she rushed over to us. She blocked the doctor, her voice tight with tension. Doctor, this is a private matter between my husband and me. It's none of your concern. I felt a chill run down my spine as I slowly turned to look at Sophie. For the first time, this beautiful face seemed completely unfamiliar to me. Sophie, what does this mean? The doctor's brows furrowed. You didn't know. Your wife told us you both were focused on your careers and weren't ready for children. So she chose to have an abortion. You mean to say you had no idea? I can't even remember how I got home. The shocking news had left me completely numb. I sat in the study for a long time, closing my eyes. How could this be? In the novel, it was clearly written that Noah's jealousy and argument with Sophie had caused her miscarriage. How could it be? For some reason, thinking about this made something deep inside me ache, as if I could feel the same hopelessness and pain Noah must have felt when he learned the baby was gone. The discomfort grew stronger. I shook my head, trying to shake off the feeling. The study had been recently organized. I flipped through a few things, finally finding the box that stored my old university stuff. At the very bottom was a college memory album. If the miscarriage wasn't how it was written in the book, could there be other differences too? Opening the first page, I saw a picture from military training. The sun was blazing, and a boy in a green uniform was smiling brightly. Behind him, standing on the stage, was a slender figure. Even though the figure was far away, anyone could tell at a glance that it was Sophie from their college days. Beneath the photo were a few lines of small text. On the first day of training, a girl fainted next to me. I carried her to the infirmary. She was so light. I didn't expect to see her again on stage today, giving the freshman speech. Turns out her name is Sophie. Pretending to take selfies just to sneak pictures of someone you like, a classic move. This must have been when he first started liking Sophie. I chuckled a little. Noah fell in love with Sophie in such a simple and cliched way. Just so. They love at first sight. I couldn't help but touch my face. The Noah in the book was selfish, reckless, and obsessive. He seemed so different from the one with that bright, carefree smile in the photo. It was hard to imagine that the boy with stars in his eyes would eventually become the paranoid, domineering, and selfish man he was later on. I kept flipping through the album, surprised to find that every single photo was related to Sophie. There were pictures of her attending class in a lecture hall, playing badminton with her hair flying, eating alone in the cafeteria, and working diligently at the pottery shop. Sometimes, next to the photos, there were short comments. The classes she chooses are so boring. Ugh, I don't get them. How can a girl be so good at both studying and sports? She always eats alone, and it's always the cheapest meal at the cafeteria. Does she ever get full? She always seems so busy, not even enough time to talk to me. It was a whole album of Noah's unrequited love for Sophie. For 4 years, he had taken countless photos of her. Every picture and every sentence painted a very different Noah than the one in the book. She seems to like someone, but it's not me. What should I do? Maybe I should give up. Tomorrow is the graduation ceremony. Should I confess and say goodbye to this one-sided crush? She suddenly left in the middle of the graduation photo shoot. I followed her secretly and found out her mom's condition had worsened and they needed a lot of money. What will she do? The page where the graduation photos should have been was blank because of Sophie. Noah missed his own graduation photo. My hands began to tremble slightly. I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt like this album was unbearably heavy, weighing down on me, making it hard to keep turning the pages. It felt like if I kept reading, something uncontrollable would happen. There was a tightness in my chest, like a heavy stone pressing down, making it hard to breathe. But some unseen force pushed me to keep going. Then I found a wedding photo. No, to be more precise, it was a passport-sized photo, the picture from their marriage certificate. Noah still had a smile on his face, but it was more subdued, a small curve at the corner of his lips. His body leaned slightly toward Sophie. Sophie, however, looked calm and indifferent, completely out of place against the joyful red background. I realized they never had a proper wedding photo. After a year of back and forth, Sophie finally chose to marry Noah. But she didn't marry the person she loved most, so she had no interest in the trivial details of the wedding. At the time, her mother was also in the hospital, so they didn't have a wedding ceremony or take any wedding photos. They just got the certificate and called it a marriage. I had expected that on this page, the day he finally got to be with Sophie, Noah would have written a lot, but there wasn't a single word. I stared at that photo for a long time, feeling an inexplicable tightness in my chest. 5 years of unrequited love. 5 years of marriage. And this was the only picture they had together. I pushed down my emotions and kept turning the pages, but there were no more photos of Sophie. Only occasional sentences remained. She's been so busy lately. Her company is just starting and she has to handle everything herself. It must be exhausting. I made her favorite sweet and sour ribs, but she came home smelling of alcohol and fell straight into bed. She bought an apartment near her company for convenience. But that man, why is he there too? I know I'll never mean as much to her as he does, but I still want a child of our own. Am I beyond hope? I went to the nursing home again today and ran into Jessica helping her dad check out. She told me I was being an idiot, that Sophie isn't the type of woman who'll fall for this kind of trick. I turned and left because I knew she was right. I was ready to give up, but that night she came home, drunk. I couldn't resist kissing her, and for the first time, she kissed me back. There was a blank space. Then, finally, on one page, I think, she's pregnant. I kept reading. Those 2 months were indeed the best period of Noah and Sophie's relationship, even though he knew that Sophie's change in attitude was only because of the baby. But by then, he didn't want anything else. From the moment he fell for her all those years ago, he had been hopelessly in love with this person. He once believed she was the light of his life. He wanted to draw warmth and affection from her. But from the start, it was all wrong. This seemingly perfect dream finally shattered. The last page held a torn consent form for an abortion. Sophie's signature scrawled in the bottom right corner. It felt like lightning had struck me, and a wave of pain washed over me, leaving me numb and cold. Countless images flashed through my mind, crashing over me like a violent storm, as if trying to drown me. I felt like a fish gasping for air before a storm, trying to break the surface to breathe, only to be dragged under by a bigger wave. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, and then finally it hit me. I hadn't transmigrated. I am Noah. The sudden ringing of my phone cut through the silence of the study, especially jarring in the quiet room. It was Jessica calling. I answered, and before I could say anything, Jessica's direct voice came through. "Did you go to the hospital to see Sophie today?" Her flight was in the afternoon, so logically she shouldn't know what's been going on here. Even though I had posted some things on social media, she shouldn't have such detailed info, especially about the timing. Yes, I didn't deny it. How did you know? She hesitated briefly. Sophie called me, asking some questions about you. Oh, I see. I nodded, not pressing for more, sensing my indifferent tone. Jessica seemed to pick up on the fact that something was off. It's late. You're still awake? She asked, softening her voice and changing the topic. I was about to respond when the doorbell rang. To my surprise, it was Sophie. I hung up on Jessica, went downstairs, and opened the door. But I didn't invite Sophie inside. The sky had already gone completely dark, and the streetlights behind her cast a faint glow, leaving her face half lit, half shadowed. What do you want? I asked. Her lips were pale. I came to apologize. It had been 3 hours since I left the hospital, and only now did she think to say these words. No need, I replied flatly. It's all in the past. It was too late. I didn't need her apology anymore. Sophie's face turned even paler. Noah, please listen to me. I can explain. That day, I was just impulsive. Was it really impulsive? Or was it premeditated? I asked softly. Carrying my child must have been painful for you. Right. Sophie froze. It took her a long moment before she closed her eyes and, with difficulty, said, At first I really didn't want this baby. But later, as the child grew day by day, I was just confused in that moment, and I regret it. Isn't it too late to regret it now? Regret filled Sophie's eyes as her shoulders shook, but she couldn't find the words to respond. I gave her a faint smile. You wanted me to think that it was my fault, that you lost the baby because of me. Right, that way I'd be consumed with guilt, unable to ever bring up the child again, and you'd finally be free. Isn't that how it goes? Sophie was stunned. Deep down, she had always believed that I was exactly that kind of selfish, possessive, and jealous man. As long as the child was gone, I would have no reason to tie her down anymore. She opened her mouth, struggling to find the words. But that was between us. Why did you suddenly go after Justin that day? I looked at her quietly. This was the woman I had loved for 10 years. And yet, even at this moment, her heart was still focused on another man. I smiled. There was no particular reason. I just didn't like him. He deserved it. But the child is gone, and we're divorced now. Sophie, you can finally be with him. You should be happy. No, Sophie seemed to snap, stepping forward and grabbing my wrist. I don't love him. I don't love him. Noah, can you please stop talking to me like this? I frowned, just about to push her away, when suddenly a soft laugh came from behind. Well, looks like I picked the wrong time to show up. Sophie immediately froze. It was only then that I noticed the person who had arrived was Jessica, the one who was supposed to be out of town. She brushed a strand of hair from her ear, her beautiful eyes glinting coldly as she looked at Sophie. Sophie, didn't I tell you that since you were the one who wanted the divorce, you shouldn't come back and bother him? Sophie bit her lip, glaring at Jessica with equal hostility. My relationship with Noah is none of your business. Jessica raised an eyebrow and walked over, standing next to me and casually looping her arm through mine. My heart skipped a beat. Jessica. She tilted her head toward me, smiling in that sultry yet innocent way of hers. What? Are you planning on going back to her? My head felt a bit muddled, so I shook it. No such plans. But why are you back all of a sudden? She lifted her chin slightly. If I didn't come back, would I have to watch her harass you? Sophie stared intently at the way Jessica was holding my arm, her eyes turning red. Jessica, don't act like you're so noble. You know exactly what your intentions are, don't you? Jessica chuckled. She turned around, her smile still bright. Oh, since Miss Sue seems to know so much, why don't you tell me exactly what my intentions are? Sophie refused to speak. Her lips pressed tightly together. Jessica smirked. What's wrong? You won't say it. Fine. I'll say it for you. I've been waiting for you two to get divorced so I could chase after him. This chance doesn't come often, so of course, I'm gonna make the most of it. The night breeze carried her voice, every word ringing in my ears, stirring something deep inside my chest. Jessica continued, Sophie, if you had even a shred of decency, you wouldn't have asked those questions just now. Do you really think there's anyone out there who will keep forgiving you forever? Who will always give you another chance? Sophie's face turned deathly pale, her body swaying like she might collapse at any moment. She muttered, her voice shattered. I didn't mean to. Jessica seemed to have no patience for her, cutting her off coldly. I already told you, he's finally moving on from all of that and is ready to start a new life. Why would you come back and drag him down with it? I suddenly looked at Jessica. Something about what she said didn't sit right with me. Could she have figured something out? But Jessica didn't seem to notice my reaction. She simply said, You should leave. Don't come back. Sophie nearly collapsed, her gaze vacant, as if she had lost all sense of focus. I didn't want to watch any longer. So I said, All right, you came here to ask 2 questions and I've already answered them. From today onward, we have no connection whatsoever. With that, I turned to leave. Suddenly, a dull thud sounded behind me. Sophie had fallen to her knees. Noah. Her voice trembled uncontrollably. I know it's my fault. Everything was my fault. Please, just give me one more chance. Let's start over. Jessica's first reaction was to glance at me. The usual arrogance and haughtiness in her demeanor seemed to fade away, leaving only her bright, beautiful eyes locked onto me. Her hand, hanging by her side, tightened, and her expression became tense. She was nervous. Sophie was waiting for my answer. And so was she. I turned and looked quietly at Sophie. Sophie. For 5 years of marriage, I wasn't like Justin. I wasn't the one you wanted, and all I did was cause you trouble. I even foolishly believed I could have you all to myself. That's what you think of me, isn't it? Sophie's face went pale. I added softly, You even believe that this marriage itself was forced. If it hadn't been for your mother, you would never have been with me, and there wouldn't have been all this drama. That's how you see our marriage, isn't it? That's what you told me before the accident, isn't it? Sophie's expression turned to one of deep regret, her eyes panicking. I only said that out of anger that day. I was too upset, I didn't mean. It was that conversation that made me fully understand how laughable, hateful, and pathetic I was in her eyes. After losing the baby, I was heartbroken, starting to wonder if I should set Sophie free. A man like me didn't deserve to be with her. So when Justin asked to meet, I agreed. I wanted to talk to him, to clear the air with the men who had always lingered around my marriage. But I didn't get the chance to ask my questions that day because Justin handed me the consent form for the abortion. Noah, did you really think having a baby would make Ollie love you? I was there when you called her. I even told her she should listen to you and stay home instead of going on that business trip. But do you know what she said? She said you were just trying to trap her with the baby and that it was exhausting. You've loved Ollie since freshman year, haven't you? Oh, right. It was because she fainted during military training. And you carried her to the infirmary, wasn't it? Being helpful is a good thing, but falling in love because of that one little incident and expecting her to be with you forever, don't you think that's a bit much? Noah, stop fooling yourself. Ollie is sick of you, and the thought of having your child disgusts her. I never expected Justin to deliberately throw himself down the stairs, nor did I expect Sophie to show up at that exact moment. She didn't even bother to hear my side of the story. All she did was cry by Justin's side, deeply concerned for him. From start to finish, she didn't spare me a single glance. Later, when she finally made time for me, I wanted to confront her about the baby, but her words shut me down. Noah, how long are you going to keep this up? Do you realize how much you disgust me from head to toe? I had wandered the streets aimlessly for a long time that day, her harsh words echoing in my head. Am I really that selfish? Am I that extreme? Am I really that detestable? Until that car hit me, and I blacked out. When I woke up, I became another version of myself, a version of me seen through Sophie's eyes. In this new world she created, I was mad, selfish, and obsessive, and most importantly, I no longer loved her. I stared into Sophie's eyes, speaking calmly. But Sophie, in this world, I don't love you anymore. It was my love that put you on a pedestal, but you were never worthy of it. When I woke up the next morning, the sun was already up. I smelled something delicious and wandered into the kitchen, surprised to see Jessica cooking. I was stunned. Miss Chan, what's the occasion today that warrants such a grand gesture from you? Jessica tilted her head toward the garden outside. It's the day when someone annoying finally left. Sophie had knelt outside all night, but I didn't bother with her. I pulled Jessica, who still wanted to argue, back inside, closed the door, and went to sleep. Of course, in separate rooms, I sat at the table and took a bite of the toast and eggs she made. Also happens to be the first time Miss Chan failed at cooking. Jessica rushed over, trying to take the toast from me. Is it burnt? Don't eat it, I'll make you a new one. I dodged her. No need. It's a waste to throw it out. It's still edible. Jessica eyed me skeptically. Really? I held up the toast. Want to try? Just as she was about to take a bite, I leaned forward and kissed the corner of her lips. She froze, and her ears turned visibly red. Noah. I smiled, satisfied, and pinched her cheek. I heard you. Why are you yelling so loudly? You're even louder than when you confessed yesterday, Jessica. She stayed quiet for a while before throwing herself into my arms, muttering softly. I thought you'd forgotten everything. After the accident, you couldn't remember much. I almost thought I'd be stuck taking care of a fool for the rest of my life. I ruffled her hair. How could I forget? Even if I forgot myself. I ruffled her hair. How could I forget? Even if I forgot myself, I wouldn't forget you. Even in those days when I couldn't recognize or trust myself, I never let my guard up around her. I trusted her completely. She looked up at me, smiling with satisfaction. Finally using your brain for once. All these years, my feelings haven't gone to waste. Something tugged at my heart. I couldn't help but ask, it's Jessica. How could you be even more foolish than me? Why did you fall for someone like me? She puffed up with pride. Because I have great taste. I knew I was waiting for someone worth waiting for. I laughed. Yes, you're the best. Sophie's extra story. Lately I keep running into a boy. He's there during classes, at the badminton courts, and even when I'm working part-time. It seems like a coincidence, but his attempts are clumsy, and he's terrible at hiding his intentions. It's written all over his face. It's a bit annoying. It's not like I haven't had other boys interested in me before, but none of them were as blatant as he was. I thought he'd give up after a while, but to my surprise, he was incredibly persistent. I purposely started spending time with Justin, hoping he'd take the hint and back off. His disappointment was visible, and after that, I didn't see him for a long time. I felt relieved, though part of me thought he really is the type to give up quickly. After all, he's a rich kid. He's never faced real hardship. He's nothing like us, I remembered Justin saying, and my mood soured. Even Justin's hints that we should be together irritated me, so I found an excuse to turn him down. I didn't have time for relationships. I had to take care of my parents and support my family. Justin, being understanding as always, didn't push the issue and instead focused on helping me. But then, things took a turn for the worse. My mom's condition deteriorated, and we needed a huge amount of money for her treatment. Just when I thought I had no way out, that boy appeared again. What do you want in return? I asked. He shook his head. I laughed bitterly inside, not sure whether I was mocking him or myself. All right then, let's be together? I heard myself say I knew what he wanted, yet he acted like he didn't. But I had no choice. I needed the money. So I sold myself to him. His relationship with his family wasn't great, yet he acted like he didn't. But I had no choice. I needed the money. So I sold myself to him. His relationship with his family wasn't great, so he clung to me, but I was too busy. When did I have the time for him? Eventually, he started coming around less, and I thought he had finally let it go. I didn't realize he was busy causing trouble for Justin. I scolded him multiple times, but he always denied it. Our arguments never ended well. When he finally stopped, I was relieved, until I saw him chatting with another woman at the nursing home. That woman was Jessica. I knew her. She was his childhood friend and came from a similar background. If it weren't for me, they would have been a perfect match. I'm a woman. I could see the way she looked at him. He would complain to her, bicker with her, all things he never did with me. How could he do this? He said he loved me, yet he was with another woman. He thought I was drunk that night, but I wasn't. I don't know where the possessiveness came from, but it consumed me, catching me off guard. When I found out I was pregnant, I felt an odd sense of relief. Now that I had a child, we would have to stay together, right? I don't even know how I ended up deciding to go through with the procedure. I thought it was a way to punish him. But I was wrong. It hurt me 1,000 times more than I ever expected. Everything fell apart, spiraling out of control. I don't even remember how I said those things to him. I must have been losing my mind. When he signed the divorce papers, I realized it. I really had lost it. How could I let him go? I couldn't let him leave. But by the time I came to my senses, it was too late. I fired Justin and leaked the news about him taking kickbacks and leaking company secrets. He couldn't find work anywhere after that and begged outside my office for days before leaving the city in disgrace. I couldn't bring myself to change the contact name in my phone. But one day, when I called it drunk, I found out it had already been disconnected. Later, I heard he and Jessica had a grand wedding. That's when I finally understood something. I had lost him for good. The rain outside was pouring, dampening everything, seeping into my heart. It was my fault. It was all my fault. I lost him, and I lost myself. I'm sorry, next time please don't meet me again. The next time I saw Sophie was 3 years later. Mom's not doing well. She wants to see you. I almost didn't recognize the woman in front of me. Sophie, once so glamorous and beautiful, now looked haggard and gaunt. In just 3 short years, she seemed to have aged 10 years. I heard she had gone through several old college classmates, trying to track me down before finally finding me. Although everything between us was long over, I couldn't help but think of the frail old woman lying in her hospital bed. So I nodded. All right, but I have something to do later, so I won't be able to stay long. Sophie's previously dull eyes lit up, clearly not expecting me to agree so easily. For a moment, she seemed a little unsure of what to do. And no problem. It's already amazing that you're willing to come. There was an unfamiliar nervousness and unease on her face as she spoke softly. I'm already so grateful you're willing to go. I made a call to my family, and then Sophie and I headed out to visit Sue's mother. Surprisingly, she wasn't in the nursing home anymore. The car finally stopped in front of a rundown apartment building. Oh, right. I'd heard that a few years ago things fell apart between Sophie and Justin. Out of spite, Justin joined one of her rival companies and systematically pushed Sophie to the brink. Her company went bankrupt. She was deep in debt, and she had borrowed money from several classmates. In the end, after all that, she had ended up like this, unable to afford the nursing home fees, and without a proper place to stay. Now she was renting a shabby apartment. When we got to the door, Sophie didn't go in right away. She placed her hand on the door, took a deep breath, and finally pushed it open. Sue's mother was lying in bed, skeletal and weak. "Mom," Sophie called softly. Sue's mother heard her, but slowly turned her head away, closing her eyes again. Sophie walked over and whispered, "Mom, Noah came to see you." Sue's mother heard her, but slowly turned her head away, closing her eyes again. Sophie walked over and whispered, "Mom, Noah came to see you." Sue's mother froze, trembling as she lifted her head to look at me. "Mrs. Sue," I greeted her. Tears immediately welled up in Sue's mother's eyes, falling onto her thin, bony hands. Sophie rushed to wipe away her tears, but Sue's mother pushed her away. "Get out! I have no daughter like you." Caught off guard, Sophie stumbled and fell to the ground, tears brimming in her eyes. I felt a little awkward, unsure of what had caused their relationship to become like this. "Mrs. Sue, please don't get upset," but Sue's mother only cried harder, her mouth opening and closing, her voice hoarse and choking with sobs. "I know everything now, Colonel. It was Ollie who wronged you. Our family, the Sue family, wronged you." I was silent for a moment before shaking my head. "It's all in the past. Everyone has their own life now. We should all move forward, don't you think?" Sue's mother trembled, turning her head away to cry. "Noah, you're a good boy. You shouldn't come here again." Sophie, her eyes red and swollen, wanted to see me off downstairs. "There's no need." "Take care of your mother," I said, glancing at my phone. Sophie gave a bitter smile. Ever since she found out we divorced, she hasn't acknowledged me. She looks at me every day and just gets angrier. I wasn't in the mood to listen to this. Nor was I interested. Grabbing my car keys, I prepared to leave. Sophie hesitated. "Noah, are you in a hurry? Maybe we could." I prepared to leave. Sophie hesitated. "Noah, are you in a hurry? Maybe we could. Have lunch or tea." I nodded. "Yeah, I've got to go pick up Lara from school." Sophie froze as if struck by lightning. Her face went pale as a sheet. What? "Oh, I forgot to tell you. Lara, my daughter," I smiled. "You haven't met her. She's got her mother's eyes, but my nose and mouth. She's beautiful." Sophie couldn't say another word. She slumped onto the sofa, slowly covering her face, and began to sob quietly. I turned and left. As the door closed behind me, I heard her collapse into full-blown weeping. I didn't look back. I walked straight to my car and rushed to the kindergarten. "Daddy." A soft, sweet bundle of joy threw herself into my arms. I lifted her up and gave her a little toss. "Let's go. Mommy's cooking something special at home today." My little girl scrunched up her nose, looking at me pitifully. "Daddy, I want to eat your cooking." I tapped her nose playfully. "All right." The part of me that was once missing had long since been filled with love. The past is just that, gone, like smoke in the wind.
Song widget. Use. I'm getting mad frame drops due to network. That's not cool. That is for setting up the widget. Like, you just link your Spotify. You create an account, you link your Spotify to it, and then it will give you a website that you create a browser source, copy that website in, and then you're good to go. Legend. I try to help people out as much as possible when it comes to these things, because I am a nerd. I'm going to school for IT, and so or IT and cybersecurity. So like I'm used to being like the tech go-to guy with a lot of my friends, and so it doesn't bother me when people ask questions and stuff like that. I've got you tabbed open, dude. I may be quiet for a minute. Gotta get some work done. Some work. No, you're good, dude. Get that work done. Get that bread. That's not the same video. All right, we'll give it a watch. Let me know if you have the questions. I thought he explained it pretty well. have to give it a try when I'm about to mess with it again. Do it. Do it. I'm starting to wondering why the fuck I'm still wearing the hot dog costume. That channel point redemption was only for 20 minutes. I believe it's been over 20 minutes. What the fuck? Why not? Because look at me, man.
I have eyes on enemy vehicle bearing east.
Look at me.
Objective Bravo is under attack.
Bat, say anything back?
Bravo has been lost. Be advised, enemy sniper confirmed. Bearing
You posted it in the live stream. Saying he's rocking the glizzy suit now. No.
We have weakened the enemy forces. Keep fighting.
Janchi, the great Janchi. Oh, my sweet Janchi. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Simon is home. Did you find your pants?
Move to defensive position.
I'll say, at least that wearing the hot dog